this is Jen, and thanks for joining me. Today I am doing cards using the Frantic Stamper February 2019 card kit. The card kit is still available and will be available until the end of February, so if you are interested, I will leave a link below to the website. They have such cool items in this kit, and you know, when I look at a card kit, I always look for what items that I can continue using after I have made my, original cards with the kit. And this has a stamp set and dies that go with it that I will definitely be using for a long time to come. And if you are interested in the unboxing, I will link that below. So the first kit, I am using this kind of geometric paper and also the triangle die. And I have adhered the geometric paper to my card base, and then I took a piece of white paper and cut out the triangle using the triangle die. And then I am also using as a background the yellow paper that has writing on it, and that will go under my triangle cutout piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and take some adhesive and adhere the yellow portion to the card. And then I'm just going to adhere the white triangle piece flat on top. I was going to pop it up with foam tape, but decided to go ahead and just use my Nouveau Deluxe adhesive. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that, but my boys are being rowdy in the back in the other room. And then for this card, I use the wishing die, and then the kit comes with a stamp that matches the wishing die and the kind of like shadow piece, the background. So it's actually, the die is two pieces, and I use both pieces. I use a blue piece of paper from the kit for the wishing word, and then for the shadow background, I use the yellow paper again with the writing on it. And so I'm just going to adhere those two pieces together. And then I stamped out the sentiment, "You were here," and that is a sentiment in the stamp set. And I just used my detail white embossing powder on a piece of black paper. And then I grabbed some sequins from my stash. And these are 28 lilac lane sequins. The collection for these sequins is called New Leaf. And that pretty much finishes the card off. Really simple and clean. For the next card, I'm using the pink background paper and this background paper with the balloons on one side, not background paper, 6x6 paper with the balloons on one side and kind of like an old-fashioned-y pattern. I don't know how else to explain that on the other side. And I'm just cutting a thin strip to go across the card. And then I'm also going to cut the paper doilies. Originally, I was going to use one portion of paper doily and one portion of the wooden doily that comes in the kit. And so I ended up, if you can see on the right hand side, I ended up cutting the wooden doily, which was really easy actually. I just cut it with my scissors. Not my favorite pair of scissors, but I cut a pair of scissors. And then I didn't like how it looked, so I do end up using just the two paper doilies. So I just adhere each of those to my strip of paper. And then this card kit comes with a lot of die. It comes out with a lot of stuff, but it came with a cake die and then a little tiny candle, and so I'm going to use both of those on this card. And the cake die, I just used a piece of white paper, and then I wanted it to be chocolate cake, and there was no brown paper in the kit, so I just used a piece of scrap paper from my stash. And then for the sentiment for this, I used several of them, but I used the wishes sentiment with the wishes die and the shadow die. And the wishes, the word is out of the same pink paper that I used on the background of the card. And then the white piece, in the video, it just looks like a piece of white paper, and I actually thought it was from the kit, but it was just a piece of scrap paper I had laying there. And it's actually got like a pearlized finish, and I thought it looked really cool, so I just went ahead and left it. And so I'm just adhering the wishes sentiment over that shadow piece. And then for the cake, I'm going to go ahead and insert those chocolate pieces using my liquid adhesive. And then for whatever reason, I bought 2 of the Nuvo liquid adhesives. The first one I bought for the same reason I am probably going to buy another one is, or maybe I should just find another brand of glue. I don't know. It gets about halfway full or a little less than halfway full, and for whatever reason, it is so hard to get out of the container that I have to constantly shake it. So I don't know if maybe I'm not getting the cap on right and it's drying up a little bit, but I've like unclogged the tube so many times that maybe I'll just try another adhesive and see how that works. But for the wishes sentiment, I went ahead and used that tiny little candle die and adhere that over the eye. So instead of the eye, it has the candle piece, and then I just trimmed off the excess. And then I go ahead and create the 2 sentiment strips using "Wish You a Boatload of" and then "Happy Birthday." And I go ahead and pop up the wishes and adhere the sentiments. And then to top it off, I use my favorite liquid pearls, which is the white opal. I just think it finishes off and makes it look kind of elegant, I guess. An elegant piece of cake. And that will finish that card off. And I apologize. They're so loud. So the next card is using this really pretty paper. I'm actually going to cut out 3 pieces of this paper, and it fits perfectly for the layout that I wanted to do. So I go ahead and cut that center piece out and center it on my card base. And then I'm just marking off because there's going to be 2 white pieces on each side that are popped up with foam tape, and I want them to overlap a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and I mark that off with a pencil, and then I'll trim those 2 pieces out. And then I'm going to add a piece of the gold sparkly sticker sheet that came in the kit to the sides of each of those white strips of paper. And then, as I mentioned, these strips will be popped up with foam tape, and then I'm just going to go ahead and adhere those to the card. And of course, I have a hard time getting stuff centered. So I kind of made my own little sequins. I just took the biggest hole punch that I had and used the sparkly pink paper and cut those out. It's not paper, actually, it's a sticker sheet. And adhered those on the card. And then I took a piece of the pink paper and heat embossed "Celebrating You" with my white detail embossing powder from Michaels. And that will finish off that card. So this next card, I am using the triangle die again. And I'm using this really pretty striped paper. So I'm just going to run that through my Big Shot. And so what I'm doing is just folding over the die piece so that kind of has a pattern, and you can kind of move it back and forth and get the pattern that you want. So basically that's what I'm doing here, is just trying to figure out how I want it to look. And then I will go ahead and adhere the inside with some double-sided tape. And then I'm using as the background a piece of the blue foil paper that came in the kit. And so I've already cut that out, and I will adhere that to the other side of this piece. And then that will just be adhered. I don't believe I pop it up. I can't remember. And then I used the candle stamp and colored that in with some Nuvo alcohol markers. And then originally I used this Make-A-Wish stamp and I didn't love it. And so I did go back and change the sentiment I think it just says happy birthday, but the photo will be at the end of the video. And that completes that card. So for the next card, I really love these colors together. They're so pretty, along with the buttons. So I used the doily again, and then this really pretty kind of lime paper with the white polka dots, and then the pink paper. And I'm going to heat emboss my sentiment. And so I just used my embossing bag, and I'm going to use some Versamark. And I'm going to stamp up my sentiment, and then the stamp set comes with these little... They look like stars, but they can't really tell that they're stars when it's stamped out. But I'm just using a clear, no, not clear. What embossing powder? Yeah, I do. I use a clear embossing powder for this. So it's kind of a tone-on-tone look almost with the sentiment and the stars. And then I'm taking the doily and I'm just going to fold that over the paper panel. The polka dotted paper panel, and then that will be adhered to my card panel. And then I take the little tiny candle die and I cut out 3 candles using the pattern paper from the kit, and then that's just going to be adhered right over the sentiment. And then I will take some sticky dots after I adhere that. I think I did pop that up. And then I'm just going to take several of the buttons that came in the kit and adhere those with my sticky dots. And that will complete that card. That's probably one of my favorite ones. I just really like that pattern paper. So this was a card that was a little more involved than I wanted to get, and I try not to get so involved with the 10 cards one kit just because it's a lot. But I really like this pattern paper, and so I just fussy cut out a lot of these shapes that I thought I would use on the card. So I cut out a bunch of the leaves and the florals. And then I'm taking this bottle cap. I believe it's about a 2-inch bottle cap that came in the kit, and I had never done this before, so I kind of had to experiment a little bit with running the bottle cap through my Big Shot machine to flatten it. And so I ended up doing it face up and then face down. I did it both ways to be able to get it flat to how I wanted it, but it did work. I was kind of worried because it's a new embossing machine. But it flattened it really nicely. And so I'm going to go ahead, and I haven't had a chance to use my alcohol pearl inks yet. And so I messed around with the paper pieces and then thought that I would go ahead and try and use the alcohol pearls on the bottle cap. And so the color... This is, shoot, I don't know what the colors are. The colors I used are Deception, Alchemy, and Splendor, but I can't tell you which one is which. I think which one is the pink. So basically it's a yellow, a pink, and an orange color. And so I'm just adding that to the bottle cap top. And then I'll add a little bit of the blending solution also. Like I said, I haven't used, the first time I've used the alcohol ink pearls. They do have a little bead in them, so they have to be shaken to get that mica or whatever the shimmer is shaken up in the container. And so I went ahead and I used the alcohol blending solution, and I'm just taking a baby aspirator and using that to move the ink around. I found that it's easier than using a straw. So I like using that instead. And so I'm just adding color to get it how I want. And since it's kind of a rounded piece, a lot of the liquid tends to go in the well on the side. And so I'm just trying to move that around. Then I'm going to take another piece of the pattern paper and cut out 2 little hills for my what's going to end up being a flower. So this is going to be the portion that's on my card base. And this would be a card you probably would send through the mail in an envelope. It would probably get damaged, or you know, when it goes through the mail sorting machines, it probably would tear open. So it's probably like a better in-person card, or even a card if you're sending a box or something, to include that way, or even just to put in like a tiny bubble mailer or something like that. So I'm just going to adhere the first little hill. And then after that, I had to add a lot of foam tape to get it high enough to go over the little paper straw, which is something that was also included in the kit. So I'm using that as a stem. I think I had to put 5 pieces of foam tape to get that popped up enough to go over that straw. And then I also took the bottle cap and popped that up with foam tape as well. And then I'm just going to add the little pieces that I had cut out from the pattern paper. I add a few leaves, and I add these buttons to the center using my sticky dots again, or Zots. So I'm just going to adhere a couple of the buttons. And I didn't want to cover up all of that pretty alcohol ink, so I just tried to find some small buttons that would kind of give it a little bit of character, but not totally cover up the color underneath it. And then here I'm just going to start adding the pieces that I want to go on the card. And so I add these fun little flowers. And then I'll add some of the leaves that I cut out to go on the straw stem. And then I take the stamp, and there's a stamp in the sentiment set that says best, and I'm just taking my VersaFine black ink and stamping the little flower. And then I didn't know which color I wanted, if I wanted the green or the orange, so I just stamped out both, and the green kind of got lost in the background, so I ended up with the orange, and I'm just using that Wishes die again. These are VersaMark or VersaFine Clear inks. They are new to me, and I know they're not new to the market, but I love them. So the color's really vibrant, and especially for solid images. And if you like the VersaFine black, you know, detail ink, these are just as great. So I am using metallic, a Prima metallic acrylic paint, and I've just put some on my stamping block and watered that down, and I'm just now taking a paintbrush and splattering that all over the card, and that will complete that card. And I had the blue left over, and so I didn't want to waste it from my stamping block. I just smeared it on this piece of white cardstock, and so I created a card out of that. And also I created a card out of I was just testing this out. I had recently purchased this Lindy's magical shaker, and it's just another shaker. This is Cuckoo Clock Cardinal, I think is what it is. So it's just a shaker like the Nuvo Shimmer Powders, or the, I believe the brush shows, even though the brush shows I have aren't shimmery, but some of these are shimmery. And I bought one of them and I absolutely loved it, so I ended up getting a few more, which I usually don't like to do. But I created 2 cards out of those. I didn't want to waste the ink, and so these are the 2 cards that were created using that. So this next card is basically, I just tried to use all of the sentiments, or as many of the sentiments as I can. So I'm just taking my We Are Memory Keepers Precision Press, which I love, love, love. I love that thing. I can't tell you how I didn't know that I was missing this. I've been using my Hampton Art stamping platform. I just love this thing because I like that you can take the base and position it, And I know this isn't like a new technology because I think they have these, but I just love this because it comes with a base that you can actually put it on also with magnets, or you can just use it like this. And it has helped me so much. I just love it. So I went ahead and I took a piece of the white cardstock and I used my Versamark and stamped that out. And then I'm just using my white detail embossing powder from Michaels. And then I'll go ahead and heat set that with my gun. And then I am taking several Distressed Oxide inks and this Tim Holtz stencil. And I did buy one of these makeup brush tool thingies. I had seen several videos and I was like, I didn't want to buy like a 14-piece set because I didn't think that I would use it. And so I saw these at Walmart. There was like 3 brushes. This is the biggest one, which as you see, it's not very big, but it works. And it was like 4 something. And so I thought I'd go ahead and pick it up. And I absolutely love, I love it. I can understand why people are so like all over this, because I mean, I wouldn't pay what they're asking for the, you know, craft quote unquote brushes, but these makeup ones, they're awesome. And like I said, I got this from Walmart and it was like 4 something. It had 3 brushes and the ink does not transfer. Like you can use one brush for all of your colors. I didn't have any problems. Like I said, I would wipe it on my hand after or wipe it on the paper and go on to the next color and it worked fine. So I go ahead and use several of the Distress Oxides. I use cracked pistachio, squeezed lemonade, and spiced marmalade. And then I spritz some water on and got my watermarks. I'm going to go ahead and I used a die from my stash. And so I was just going to use the centerpiece and not the kind of frame, and then I thought it was kind of plain like that, so I went ahead and decided to use the frame. So right now I'm putting the frame down just as a placement guide for my centerpiece. And even though I have that guide, it didn't get on there perfectly. Perfect. And then I will go ahead and take some foam tape and pop up the frame piece. And when I look at this card, I go further than what I had originally planned, and I wish I would have just stuck with this card like it is right now, but I decided to go ahead and cut the wishes and wishing words out and color them in yellow and adhere those on top of the white embossing. And I think it looks okay, but I probably should have left well enough alone. So this last card is just super simple. I took a scallop die from my stash and went ahead and adhered a piece of the pattern paper, and underneath that adhered a piece of the pink sticker paper onto a piece of the pattern paper from the kit. And then I created a bow using the pink ribbon from the kit and stamped the sentiment. I believe it's happy birthday. I totally forgot to take a picture of this, so it's not at the end of the video, so I apologize for that. But I went ahead and for this video, I put all of the images of the still shots at the end of the video. Usually I put them after each card that I make, so I make a card and then I'll show the still shots. Let me know what you prefer, if you have a preference, if you would rather the still shots be after the process for that card, or if you would prefer them at the very end of the video like I'm doing this time. I did it this way this time because it allows me to know, kind of gives me a better idea of when my video is gonna end. And for this video in particular, I actually didn't even have the still shots taken when I finished editing the video, and so I could have just inserted them. It was just easier to go ahead and insert them at the end of the video. So if you have a preference, let me know. If you don't, I probably will go ahead and just put them at the end. As always, if you liked this video or found it informative, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you would like to subscribe, hit the red subscribe button. If you click on the bell, that will notify you of when I post new videos. And again, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave those, and I will catch you next time.